Everyone, welcome to the SquadCast. We're here today to talk about some really interesting things when it comes to data and events, event intelligence, BI analytics. We're really excited to have our CTO on today that is, well versed in data, intelligence, AI, etc. We're going to talk about some of the things on why the traditional reporting in events today isn't working as well, and where we really want to go with these things. So I'd like to welcome Nassir to the call.
What's up, Aaron? How you doing?
Good. How you doing, buddy?
Good, man. Good. Excited to talk to you.
Yep. Two geeks that like to talk about data and technology, right?
Definitely.
And you've been in the technology sector as a CTO for how long, Nassir?
25 years at this point, roughly, not as CTO, but in the technology industry. Started early on in financial banking, where I got into data and making sense of finances and fraud detection and things like that early on. And that's when I found out I love the data science aspect of all this.
Yeah, you're one of those guys that I would call the data guy.
That's right.
Right? Not everybody can be the data guy. I am not the data guy, but I am the events guy. I've been doing events for 25 years. So I think it's a great combo, you and I talking about all this stuff.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, thanks for, taking some time today to talk about this subject. And really what we want to cover today is more about all of the event data that's happening out there while we're going to events, while we're doing campaigns against events, pre-event, during event, post-event, how we measure performance of events and impact and all of that. So I just want to talk a little bit about, Captello's built this platform that's very focused on, conversational intelligence, having conversations and meetings that create an advanced pipeline that we can report on. We have all of the lead capture and meeting management tools, activations, everything we need to have these great conversations that drive business. But what inspired the problem? What was the problem that inspired creation of the BI platform that we're going to talk today that we're calling Revelation?
Yeah. Honestly, frustration. We've been watching enterprise teams, spend 6 or even 7 figures on single trade shows, and then walk away with a spreadsheet, of badge scans. That was the report. That was the proof. And then, leadership would ask obvious questions, what did we get for all of that? Nobody really had a good answer. The data existed, like you mentioned, and it's not just event data. There's a lot of correlation data. You mentioned conversation intelligence, for example, gamifications and activations. Those are all data points that are there. So the data has always existed. The problem is it wasn't actionable. It just lived there in 12 different systems that didn't talk to each other. So registration is over here, badge scans are over here, CRM has its own version of truth, marketing automation is a whole other animal. So in every other quarter, someone on the marketing team was stitching it all together, usually in Excel, at night, hoping that numbers would tell a story that leadership would like. So that's a broken way to really run, a $24 billion industry. So event professionals deserved better. The gut feel at the end of the quarter was guesswork. So we built Revelation. There's already a love for the data science side. Now let's make it easy for our customers.
Got it. Awesome. And I hear those stories all the time, right? We've spent weeks after the event trying to pull all the data together to tell a certain data story. And it's hit and miss on whether we're able to tell the whole story, on whether we have all of the right data to tell the story, etc. So, and like you said, for multiple systems, multiple spreadsheets, I think this is why people get good at VLOOKUPs and Excel formulas, right? So we have some Excel pros out there that are events and experiential people, but they've had to become pros in Excel. So now, why do you think, and how do you think that Revelation or a BI platform is really needed more than just how our traditional reports on events? We have How many leads did we capture? How many meetings did we have? Who engaged? Like, what does the BI platform do differently? What does Revelation do differently than the standard reporting that we see events folks running?
Yeah, with obviously no disrespect for Excel, I think it's very powerful. I've even seen somebody build a full like working simulated processor inside of Excel. Tons of capability. Like you said, there's pros out there. For the most part, though, these reports, these traditional reports, if you can call them that, and I say that because not all the data that's been gathered, not all the validation that's been used really has been report based per se. It might have been, here's our Excel sheet, we captured 1,000 leads, that's it. So the additional problem, even if you did take the time to make a report that looks good, is that they look backwards. By the time you got one, the moment has passed, right? The leads have gone cold, decisions have been made, the chance to do something different is already gone. So that worked with events when one booth, one show, one PDF at the end, right, did to kind of told you the story. But that's not the world we live in anymore, right? Enterprise events teams now run dozens of events a year, even hundreds across regions, across formats, with prospect bouncing many different touch points before they even talk to the sales team. So a static report just literally cannot capture that sort of stuff in it. And the conversation on top of that has changed, right? CFOs are not asking how many badges were you scanned. They're asking what pipeline did you build? CMOs aren't asking which event was busy. They're asking which event actually drove revenue. None of these questions get answered by a slide deck 3 weeks after the show. So these really traditional reports really are broken. Not that they're wrong. They're just too late to matter in a lot of ways.
We're talking about standard event reports today, and why that's not enough. And you're saying that pulling data from multiple places in real time to have visibility of how do we use that data today in real time while we're having conversations, rather than this is kind of a post-event thing of everything that happened in the past. We need to be able to have that data at our fingertips, pre-event, during event, post-event, correct?
Absolutely. And then more than that too, it's taken in additional context. There's more predictive capabilities you can apply when you have a proper enterprise grade platform that is tuned to your needs in your world.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, today, I've been on virtual meetings all day, and we've been recording them, and I get all of this great data that comes out of that. And if I have a call with that person, and again in a couple of weeks, I have my fingertips to that same information. I can talk about what we talked about before. I can talk about what matters to them, and having all of that data at my fingertips, man, what a difference in the type of personalized conversation that I can have.
Absolutely. And not so much, not only just the access to the data, but it's the convenience. It's not having to do the data science side of it every single time and reinventing the wheel. So
Right.
having something that just simply captures all these dimensions and presents them to you in as many visual report details, that you prefer, email to leadership, that's powerful. And that happens instantly as soon as the data kind of reconciles on the back.
Yeah, that's awesome. And with that said, we're talking about Revelation. We're talking about BI. Not everybody understands what BI is. So what exactly is Revelation?
Yeah, so let's take a step back and answer that. So Revelation is an enterprise analytics platform built specifically for event and sales data, right? The 3 words, I guess, tell you what it does, which is see, know, prove. So see everything happening across your event program in real time. Every lead, every interaction, every conversation, all in one place. You know what actually matters, which leads are hot, which staffs are converting, which sessions are working, and so on. And you're able to prove ROI to leaderships with number they can actually act on. And what we can do is this platform, just like the rest of our platform, integrates with many different types of providers. So if you have, it doesn't matter your CRM or your marketing automation platform, doesn't matter what data lake you might be using. You could be using Google Sheets. We can connect all those dots together and give you a comprehensive centralized set of capabilities around this platform. So this really is enterprise-grade infrastructure that will scale to millions of users with machine learning baked into it. On top of that, we built Captello's data models, right? These are pre-built event dashboards, attribution logic, lead scoring, churn rate logic, etc., cross-event benchmarking, all of the things that event teams need, but shouldn't have to build themselves, generally speaking. So if you think about that way, Revelation is, Fortune 500 grade BI wrapped in something that makes immediate sense to the event marketer on day one. They don't need a data scientist to use it. They just need a question to ask. And a lot of times we've collected those complex questions from our customers, and we have built the solutions, the reports, the data to support and answer those questions.
Awesome. So are you saying, Nassir, that you could have a dashboard and it could say, the vanity metrics we're used to, like, hey, you have 10 meetings coming up today, and you could click on those meetings and you could see data that's from multiple sources, like marketing automation and what their engagement score is, from the CRM. Have we had conversations with them before? The event registration data. So are you saying that we'd be able to tie in all of that different data into giving us the data at our fingertips within the Revelation UI?
Yeah, I mean, we really want to move the needle from collecting data to actually using data, right?
Using data.
Collecting data is easy. Anyone can capture badges. The hard part is what comes next, which is that interpretation side of it, action, knowing what to do about it. And that's the part where teams get stuck. Even if you had the full know-how, you understood full SQL and you wanted to do the data dynamics yourself, a lot of times people get stuck like, okay, how do I derive this point? How do I actually answer this question? How do I address churn rate? How do I do predictive analytics on X, Y, and Z? So what data points actually matter in that sense? And this is where we can help with to really speed up that process. Also, we give our users full control. They have full author rights if they want it. They can, mix reports, add additional data, upload CSVs, Excels, whatever they're comfortable with. We support that 100%. The difference is our team, our professional solutions team is there to support them every step of the way, because we're here to help accelerate that as much as possible. So, Revelation really is meant to close the gap. Software on its own is not going to get us there. That's why it's a combination of software, machine learning, and the human capability and integration side, just to make sure that we can address that. The idea is to surface signals automatically, hot leads getting flagged within X amount of minutes of interaction, down to the customer's own triggers of what a hot lead actually is. The dashboard tells the booth shifts, which ones are converting, which ones are not. If you're using conversational intelligence and you're collecting sentiment analysis, there's a lot of useful details we can derive from that, as what sort of sentiments and what sort of things were said that actually helped with closing a deal or pushing something over the edge. So the system isn't waiting for you to ask the right question. It's already kind of showing you what to look for because of the work that we've done ahead of time. If you pick like Monday morning, opening Excel sheet in the old world, you're copying numbers between the tabs, you're trying to remember which spreadsheet had what. In Revelation, you open up Revelation, your dashboard is there, you filter to your event, you compare events all from one place. That's a shift, right? Archaeology to action, essentially.
Got it. It's funny because my next question was going to be, how does Revelation help event professionals move from just collecting the data to actually using the data? And you're talking a lot about using the data in real time with all the activity and conversations and things that you're doing in those moments, right? But how do you see Revelation helping with, reporting and measuring performance and impact when it comes to all of that activity that happened?
Yeah, absolutely. So, if you want to look about one of the benefits that we push for here, it really is about having a single source of truth, especially on the data side of it. So when marketing, sales, ops, they have their own version of the data, nobody's going to trust those numbers. And when nobody trusts the numbers, every decision turns into a debate, essentially. I've sat in meetings where 3 teams pulled out 3 different reports, each about the system at different events, outside the same event, each one told a slightly different story. So it's incredibly important that we level set on that. The whole meeting, was not heading in the right direction because we started off from 3 different points of view. So that it's important that that's not something that happens often in these organizations. So a single source of truth that augments one conversation, one set of facts, one path forward, that really helps a lot in level setting. That's information you can actually trust, not having to spar which set of information is actually right. So it's critical that you trust the data, you trust the analytics process, and that's, and if you don't establish that, if we don't have the same baseline and set of, validated pieces of information in our systems, then we are not looking at the same truth.
Yeah, that you just keep giving answers for the questions I'm going to ask in the future.
Love it.
Which is awesome. I knew that we would end up talking about all this stuff, and it all kind of ties together, right? It's the source of truth. Where do we go to look for figuring out all the information that we need to know about the accounts and contacts that we're trying to engage with to try to drive business, right? And I think that aligns with kind of our strategy of what are we doing pre-event, during event, post-event, and how are we having the best conversations we can with the right people at our ICPs that are going to help create an advanced pipeline that we can report on.
Absolutely.
Right. And so it's not just reporting on it, but it's using the data through that strategy and then using that data to pull together the data story and measure impact. How do you see Revelations helping with measuring impact?
Yeah, definitely, man. And I guess define impact for me a little bit more here.
Yeah. So were we able to create an opportunity? Were we able to accelerate or advance an opportunity? How do we tie the conversations that we're having from either capturing badges or having meetings that is aligned with retention of our current customers, advancement of current expansion opportunities, net new conversations that help create a new opportunity? How would Revelations kind of help with all of that?
Yeah, and we touched on a few of these points, throughout, and I can kind of summarize them, right? So first off, is it really tells you what's actually working while the event is still happening, not weeks later. Right now, booth shifts to dragging, on a session or driving a flood of qualified leads. The moment, and you can adjust. Second, it really connects every activity back to revenue, badge scans, conversations, meetings, follow-ups. If they engage with any of our gamification vectors, all of it led back to a pipeline, and that's important to be able to kind of track that. So when leadership asks, so you got out of the, what you got out of the show, essentially, you have real answers. Is that actually a slide deck with a bunch of attendee numbers? And then, one of the last points is it makes the next event even smarter. Like I said, people have the data, but they're not actually using them. So every show now runs, feeds the entire system in general. You start spotting which events actually are driving real pipeline, which booth staff actually convert best, which time windows matter most. With our platform, they have tons of capabilities. You can set up demo stations and things like that, and we can correlate all that. Which demo station is leading to most interest, most action, most essentially closed pipeline. So the teams using Revelation will compound their results, and that's incredibly critical.
Got it. Yeah, I heard what you said there. I mean, so we've talked a lot about using the data during, pre and during the event in real time, and that helping navigate which direction we should go in, what's performing well, what's not in real time. Do we need to even make some real time changes based on those metrics or story, the data telling us the story of, hey, we wanted to go to this event to really go to market with this new product. And we've scanned a bunch of badges, we've had a bunch of meetings, but how much of it was on that topic? And if we're not seeing a lot of data come through that is on that topic, we know that maybe we need to shift in real time and do some more demos or meet the expert or activations for that topic to drive more conversations for it, right? We talked about using all this data to measure impact around pipeline creation, retention, acceleration of pipeline. But what you mentioned here a second ago that really grabbed me was, and then are we using all of that data there that we've pulled into Revelations from different sources and what's actually happened in real time for that? Say we're at another event in 2 weeks. are we using that data in those conversations and getting visibility to all of the stuff that we had learned from an event 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, we absolutely are. And we encourage our customers to be leveraging the same pipelines. We built it to simplify all that, centralize it, automate it. There's literally one of the default dashboards is the comparison and ROI dashboard. It allows folks to compare events across years or across the same year if they would like to. We can drill down to a specific one to see various data points, and we can obviously customize that per the user's needs just to make sure that every event they go to can be absolutely captured and leveraged to its full capability.
Got it. So this isn't just a data source of truth for your event. It's a data source of truth across your event portfolio, for ongoing throughout the year as you're going to these events and you're meeting with your ICPs and you're having conversations, and all of your customers and prospects are doing all of these different touch points, that you continue to have that data grow and continue to be usable across events, not just at a single event. Correct?
Absolutely. And with full integration, and it's not just the event data side of it, right? There's a lot of sales data potential. We've talked to a lot of customers, for example, that may be using an equivalent kind of solution today. Let's say Power BI, people are familiar with that. There might be a solution in place, but it's missing the event side of it. In that case, we can either augment that, or what we can do is take in all the information feeding Power BI and truly give them one much larger centralized set of capabilities that also comes with some of the capabilities we're working on, like chat with your data, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of capabilities that I think we can bring to the table here, not just on the event space, but really anything else. If you have third-party sensor data for dwell time and things like that, those are all things we can feed into the system to give you this complete picture end to end.
Got it. So this wouldn't necessarily replace their current BI if they're using Tableau, or Domo or something like that. This is just a way to have more of a event focused BI tool that's pulling all of the different data sources to give you the data that you need to have successful events and measure the impact.
Yeah, without a doubt, right? The idea is we work with them, not around them. That's the whole point. So if we're
Right.
looking at enterprise data environments, somebody has Snowflake, BigQuery, Databricks, et cetera. Those are all things we support natively. Most enterprise customers have already invested heavily in a tech stack. Redshift being another one. So if they're not going to rip that out, obviously, because
Right.
it's connected to something else. They're not going to do that for anything event based. And they shouldn't have to. So Revelation is designed to flow in and out of these environments, bi-directional, real-time, native connectors, not just a catch-up. So your event data shows up in your warehouse alongside your sales data, your marketing data, your finance data, and vice versa. It's formatted to your actual needs in general. The CRM data, filmographic, historical data, all that flows back to Revelation, so the event team gets full context on every product that walks in. So in plain language, there's not really a specific way we have to do this. It's very much complementary. It could be full replacement. It could be an enhancement. There's a lot of ways we can kind of support that. The existing investments keep working. Revelation adds that event intelligence layer on top. In addition to the additional correlation that we can bring, we support more than 1,000 integrations or so, if you think about all the red providers and so on, including native connections to Salesforce, HubSpot, Marketo, Eloqua, Cvent, Rainfocus, and so on.
Yep. And you talked a little bit about Snowflake and BigQuery. I see enterprise companies doing this all the time, where they got data coming from everywhere and they'll flow it into these, more data lakes that then can route and decide what to do with the data, what systems to send it to, routing, all of those types of things. Why do companies come up with Snowflake and BigQuery rather than just pushing things right back to the CRM or marketing automation?
Yeah, it really has to do a lot with the data schema mapping and how that should work, right? A lot of those platforms just don't handle that stuff natively, and they don't handle what's unstructured data. So if you have something that does not neatly fit into every single box those ones do it, then it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna work. That's just not what they're built for. So this is why companies tend to augment with these types of data warehouses, data lakes, essentially, to allow them a place to dump this information from all the sources, then eventually try to pick the fields that match and create this consistent data schema on top. So that's where we come in, right? We can access to that, or we can give them their own version of that without something they have to build on their own. Some companies also have their own internally developed systems in-house that handles things like deduplication. If you have duplicate record, duplicate account, for example, hygiene, where it should route, should go to marketing automation first or should go somewhere else. Is there, account codes and things like that it has to pull through? Are there industry codes it has to pull through? So they might have developed their own platforms as a central intake. We can also integrate with that platform to send data to it, to read data from it, to essentially follow its data schema, so we're consistent on the back end.
Yep, got it. And we're almost out of time. We're going to continue to do podcasts like this and continue this conversation around business intelligence, data, conversational intelligence, AI, and really helping our customers have access to the data in real time and be able to use it, throughout going to events and post-event, measuring impact, etc. Let's just end with this last question, which is, what are some of the examples of insights that event teams can uncover with Revelation?
Yeah, say that's kind of the fun part, because some of the answers can be surprising, which is good. So what we see is that we find, I'll give you a recent example, is that a customer found that their third tier regional event, right, the only one they were about to cut out from the calendar, was actually outperforming what they thought, right? And that was huge. They've been ready to that. They doubled the investment. That is a single decision point, essentially paid for the entire platform X amount of times over. Another team realized that one booth rep was converting at a much higher rate than the average. So instead of just celebrating, they actually recorded what was being said, or they reanalyzed what's being said from the conversation intelligence. They helped with a playbook around it, trained the rest of the team, and that helps conversation rates across. So we see this all the time, right? A team discovers that 40% of the pipeline they were attributing to a trade show actually came from an executive dinner, let's say the night before. So they redesign the experience around that, or they spot that 2 to 4 p.m. window is a conversion sweet spot. Staff up during those hours to make sure we can kind of support that. We had one that actually took all the third-party sensor data and the dwell time cameras and things like that and fed that and correlated it to see, and we were able to tie sentiment responses, dwell times, all that stuff, and exactly what rep conversations help essentially convert that lead. So, the pattern is really the same all the time. The data's always been there, just the team couldn't see it. And once they could, the decisions kind of made themselves at that point.
Yeah, got it. And I imagine that this, could help with conversion rate reports as well, right? We see marketing automation platforms that are handling digital marketing be able to easily show, lead to meeting to opportunity to close, one business. I think, plugging this into more of the offline event activities that's helping drive in-person conversations and being able to track those conversions would be really important as well. I can see using the Revelations platform to track those metrics as well.
Yeah, and break it down across every level too. So that matters. Event, booth rep, time, lead source, industry, vertical, campaign, right? So you can kind of assign these categories and dissect it according to, other industry metrics, your own background, your own events in the past, what you define as successful. So there's a lot we can do there. There's a lot of power in that comparison.
Yep, awesome. And look, we're going to have a lot more of these conversations. If you want to give comments or send a message on, questions you'd like answered or other information you'd like to know about the, one place of truth for all of your data when it comes to your event activities and Captello data from lead capture activations, all plugged into your sales and marketing stack, let us know. These are the things we want to talk about. When we get with our customers, it's really about, what is their process, end to end. Where's the data going? Where's data in other places that would be important? And really understanding the whole data flow and seeing how we can help you tell that story in Revelation. So again, I just want to thank you today, Nassir, for answering all of my questions and talking about a really important subject here around starting to use the data that we're getting across all of the event and in-person engagements.
Yeah,
so thanks.
I appreciate it. The one feedback I'll question or favor I have for everybody listening is right? Send us complicated scenarios, data sets, things like that you would like us to derive metrics from, maybe help guide the conversation around what data points you should be connecting to answer X, Y, or Z. We would love that. All we need is maybe your questions and data sets, and
Yeah. That's what I love. That's what I love about, I'll talk to customers all day long and I'll say, if you could see the data and get the data, what kind of data story would you want to tell with all the stuff that's happening across all the engagement programs you have? What's your dream? What do you wish you had that you don't have, that you'd never have the time to go manually pull all that together, right? Because I know that we could go to, you and your team and say, hey, how do we work with this company to uncover and discover all the things that they're trying to pull in and use revelations to tie it all together and tell a data story. So that's just awesome. So happy that we have this solution to offer to customers. And again, see us next time for the SquadCast, talking more about data analytics, BI, our Revelation platform. And if you want to contact your account executive or go to our website and request a meeting, we'll be happy to talk to you about your data, where it lives, how you'd like to pull it together, and really how Revelation could help you do that.